everybody heard Sugar Hill Gang and all that. That's not the first song that hit me. The first song that hit me was Six in the Morning by Ice T, man. Uh, I heard that song, man. 6 in the morning, policeman at the door. Fresh Adidas squeak
Fresh
across the
Adidas.
bathroom
Bump,
floor.
bump, bump, boom.
Hey, listen, man. I felt amazing, man. I mean, I heard that, man, and it made me want to go out and write some lyrics, man. Even though they were bubblegum, it was just an unbelievable feeling, man. I felt like we finally had our own music. Good day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Established Show. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Today, we're talking about hip hop influence on the black community. Take it away, Big.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we got on the panel, starting out with Mr. Chris Jones, Chilla.
Grand Risings.
We got our boy D Jones, Mr. Derrick Jones.
Good day.
We got the one and only creator, innovator, Mr. Raymond Shine.
What it is, people.
We got our ace that always comes and fills in the gap, Mr. Hezekiah Carter.
Hey, what's going on, people?
And we got two very special guests in the room. Next would be Mr. Charles R. Rostein.
The government, bro.
Hey, show up on your screen, brother. And last but not least, the only female in the room today, Miss LaWanna. Thank you for being with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody.
Good day.
Morning.
Good day.
Hey, we're going to go ahead and do this part 2 of hip hop influence on the black community, the next movement.
All right, yeah, this we're gonna go into these questions, but like I said, I want to do it a bit differently. I will well, me and Chris will direct questions at all the panelists. So we won't do a roundabout, but we'll do questions to each and every one of you. So we'll go from there. All right. I'll let Chris start off how we want to go through it.
See, that's hard because I want on this question alone, I at least want 3 people to give me an answer to this. Because
Do it
now that
how you want to do it.
now we got a female Lawana up here. I definitely want to hear her view because she's part of hip hop like us. I guess she's an artist, and I want to hear Ro maybe and whoever else, Derrick or Big. But the question is, do you think hip hop had a great influence on how we treat black women?
Ooh,
Yeah, that's
a great
That's hard.
question.
Um, I guess I'll go first
Go
and
ahead,
just
bro.
be like, um, of course, um, it had a little influence. Well, I won't say little influence. It had a lot of influence, but I think hip hop also highlighted some of the things that were already in place. Um, you know, art reflects life, life reflects art. I think it was a whole it was a whole circle. The use of the B word, uh, pimping, those things I think was really highlighted by the music. You listen to Too Short, early NWA, uh, even Slick Rick, had to treat him like a prostitute. Uh, it did, and I think it messed up some things, and I think it also put light on some things that were happening.
Mm. Anybody else?
I chime in. I'm gonna kind of roll with what Rose said. I think it did, but I think depending on what era you were in, you kind of knew the difference in entertainment versus reality. I think now, the younger generation is taking it to another level when using it in their lingo. Back in the day, yeah, we were cool with the treat her like a prostitute, but it's not like we went around and said certain things. You think about it in the 80s, when we were in school, if you called a girl a bitch, it was fighting words, man. Like real talk, man. But as a community, we've taken negative words like that and turned them into terms of endearment. Because if you listen to women now, they be like, "That's my bitch, that's my whore." Uh, and now it's kind of like the N word. We've turned it into something positive. So I think hip hop influenced that, man. If you hear something so many times, you know, you tend to use it in a positive manner if you're listening to it as far as music. I'm still not comfortable with calling a woman a bitch. I'm still not comfortable with calling a woman a whore, but it's the era that I'm from. We knew that we couldn't say certain things and we couldn't get away with that. As time went on, it became something different. Now, you see a dude, he might be, that's my shit. You know what I'm saying? And I remember back in the day, Apache was saying, I want a gangster shit. You know what I'm saying? No, seriously, real talk. And it
Yeah.
became a cool phrase. So I think, yeah, I agree with Ro. Hip hop has definitely had an influence on how we treat our women in terms of how we talk to them, I would say.
Mm.
And to me, to jump in, I would agree too. Just how we treat them, how we look at them. I mean, the videos. You know, uh, what we looked at more. I guess the physicality of it. You know, yeah, I believe through the decades that changed what we looked at least what I looked at. I know when I was younger, watching the videos and listening to the music, yeah, it accentuated females' body parts that I wasn't really looking at the time. But I mean, it's the videos made it front and center.
During my era, when I came along, I believe that that was well, I came along before the early '90s, but I believe that it shaped hip hop in a more negative sense with how they were treating women in the early '90s with glorifying money over shit, or if I could say that word, but and then it was pimps up, dwarfs down.
Mm.
I remember those eras, and it was always, to me, it wasn't a positive thing. It was negative, and even to this day, and I agree. These days now they have played it so much; it's been in repetition that we started to adapt calling each other that negative, and I'm still not comfortable. I have to check some of my friends or associates. Like I don't like that. Don't call me that, because you have to stand for something. You can't just let someone demean you and make that okay because that's the norm or that's what's being presented, because that's again part of the agenda in the first place.
Mm.
So I believe that it shaped our community, and not for the best. I don't see something positive about demeaning terms or hurting each other. And I don't see how. I think it's a shame that we've become so numb that it's okay, or that people think it's okay. I don't think that that's not conducive to our state of well-being right now.
Mm.
So, excuse me. Let me ask a question. Are we answering this from the standpoint of men rapping in hip hop, or is it just hip hop?
It's just hip hop. I mean,
That's a general
Man.
question.
I
I
was
mean, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
the reason I say that because it made me feel like when I look at Two Live Crew, I'm looking at the cover, looking at all these women, throw that D, throw that, and all this thing, and then you go down and you look at Ice-T cover, man, and his women on the back, and everybody looking at the jank with her holding the gun and her in the jank, and then you listen to the Too Short, and you like, God, dang, you just listen to how he telling these stories, and then you start going and looking at Lil Kim album, and Lil Kim up there with the way she squatting, and you like, oh snap, then you're looking at how the women got in and started changing itself more to like sex items. And you just looking at how hip hop is and how guys are just disrespecting them. Because you now, when we young, it's cool. But then some of us get daughters and we like, oh, I don't want nobody calling my daughter this, or oh, I don't want no dude treat my daughter like this. You know, your perspective get different. When you young and 17 and 18, you don't care, you falling with the flow. But then when you get older and you be like, oh man, this ain't cool. You know, I thought it was cool calling a girl this and acting like this, but I don't want my girl with a reckless dude disrespecting her, calling her out on there. I want somebody to respect my daughter like a queen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like hip
Exactly.
hop is very influenced because what we do is like monkey see, monkey do. We put on gazelles, we put on kangos, we put on no shoestrings in them. We did everything hip hop said. If they say, man, that's fresh, we said that's fresh. If they say, Joe, everything we said, man, we hip hop was influenced for our language, our style, and how we view people. Man, you whack, you know, or how you said something to somebody. Hip hop was that influence to us.
Let me pose a question to you, Big. All right. So what do you think that is? What do you think about the how women are being looked at as sex objects in the hip hop industry these days?
Well, the reason I asked the follow up question just to get clarification was because it's not just the guys. I mean, you got Trina, the baddest. You got Lil Kim, the queen. You got Cardi and Megan, WAP, and everything else. You got Foxy that was doing her thing back in the day. It's like the culture gravitate to that because you also had, in the same sense, MC Light, which is a hell of an MC. You had Queen Latifah.
That's what I grew up
But
on.
what did the culture gravitate to? So we can say, and that's why I asked what perspective were we coming from? Was it just the male part? Because the men did start, so saying some things, but there was a group of really hot, talented MCs as females that came in and carried the ball forward. Because if we don't have it, if it's not there, then we can't necessarily celebrate it. I mean, we had to, even like Missy is like a completely outlier because she just does so much, but she still is hip hop. But the things of it's like as a culture, we gravitate to stuff like WAP, stuff like just some of the other sexier songs and sexier imagery when it comes to it. And that's, some of it is the women perpetuating it. It's not
If
just the men out here.
I think it's a lot that's presented as well, and that's what seems to be glorified,
and promoted.
doing that turn, that change. Of course, we had other females that were dressed more provocative, such as Salt and Pepper, and I love those. I want to shout them out. They were another group that I love. And like you said, we have MC Light, we had Queen Latifah, we had Bahamadia, we had Lady Range, we had
Digger.
Lauren Hill. I cannot forget her. I cannot not mention her, or Heather B. I just got to give praises to all of them.
Sweet Tea.
Something happened when we came out with Lil Kim and Foxy, and we have not recovered yet, and it has really lowered our standards as women coming into the game. And that's what's mostly what's selling, that's marketed, is marketable, and it's no longer about knowledge reigning supreme. Earlier we were talking about Rakim, and back in the days, hip hop was about knowledge, and it was about what a woman was coming out of her mouth, demanding respect. Queen Latifah came out with "I'm not a bitch, don't call me a whore." I forgot the name of that song. You want not see what? That was my song.
Yeah.
But now it's like we by what's glorified and what's selling. I believe what's selling, the bottom line ultimately directs the narrative of what's going to be marketed in the first place. So these women, they'll do anything to get these deals, or they're willing to stoop low. They want to just, at the end of the day, they just want their money, and that's what it boils down to. Money will lower your self-esteem, your respect to that. And that's what I believe, and that's what it came down to. In order for you to get this bag, I need you to take off your clothes. I need you to do this. I need you to basically disrespect yourself if you really want this position as an artist.
It's
Yeah, I
interesting.
think
But
It's that.
with
Oh, go ahead.
with especially from Lil Kim aspect, like that's how Big presented her. That Big shaped and molded her. He A&R that whole situation with Lil Kim. I think, and Foxy was kind of pattern behind that. I think from their era, the dressing provocative. I think they took what was happening from R&B and brought it to hip hop, and even hip hop having the the early hip hop having this influence on that from that aspect of it. You got cats seeing, you know, how the females are reacting to what the dudes were saying, what Two Live Crew was saying. I mean, we've been to parties, backyard parties in the summertime when Bro D come on or Dude Brown or something like that come on with all of that and how the dudes react. What if you got a female bringing that type of music to the game? I think, hip hop influenced that situation also. So, it's, what Pope said is true. Excuse me, what Miss Lawanda said was true, and all of y'all bringing a good light. But I think in that situation, I think that was a product of hip hop itself.
Well, I want.
It's swinging that way.
I want to go back to what Lawanda said. I had the privilege, and all of us had the privilege of watching Cardi B come up from nowhere to stardom. And they did an interview with her, and they asked her how would she feel if her daughter became a stripper. And her answer was, why would she have to become a stripper? I did all that so she wouldn't have to. So, I mean, she just talked about how that was the only way out for her. It wasn't something that she wanted to do, it was something that she had to do. And she realized that in order to reach the level of stardom that she's at, that she had to talk about certain things in her music and be a certain way. That's not necessarily what she wants to do because she doesn't want her daughter to follow her footsteps. So that's clearly about the money. It has nothing else to do with anything but the money.
as we talk about this, is I mean, when you see the sexualized nature of music, of hip hop, I mean, that's transitioned from the 80s to the 90s to now. I mean, it's uh all you guys have hit upon it. I mean, it's what's been promoted out there. In society, they promoted the sexualization of that. I mean, through the music, through the videos, through everything. So um it definitely, just to tie it all back, it definitely changes the way that we look at things. And I think what Chris said, monkey see monkey do type situation. I mean, when you present it out there that much, it's I mean, especially when you have the diversity of being able to look at different things, and then all you see is certain things and all you hear is certain things, it's going to definitely affect the way that we look at things, you know.
And I
And
and I also
Right.
want to chime in a little more, because once you join the industry, it's like you lose your sense of individuality as an artist. So a lot of those times it's just you becoming a part of this one big machine, and now this is the standard for that kind of artist, and this is what's selling, and this is what we want to present out. Whoever controls things behind the scenes. But and that's another big thing about it. They don't have an individual self. They don't think for themselves. That just goes to show that we don't have our own minds.
I
We're
think
not
All right.
presenting our gifts individually.
I think
All right.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Cool. Hey D, I'm gonna
What
ask
up?
you this question. All right. How do you feel when you first heard hip hop?
Oh man,
Hmm.
that goes back to the early '80s, man. I was at my grandmother's house with my brother actually, and I think one of the first songs. I mean, everybody heard Sugar Hill Gang and all that. That's not the first song that hit me. The first song that hit me was "6 in the Morning" by Ice-T, man. Um, I heard that song, man. 6 in the morning, policeman at the door. Fresh Adidas squeak across the bathroom floor.
Boom.
Hey, listen, man. I felt amazing, man. I mean, I heard that, man, and it made me want to go out and write some lyrics, man. Even though they were bubblegum, it was just an unbelievable feeling, man. I felt like we finally had our own music because if you look back in the day, um, they created a situation, especially when MTV took over, where they would only play our music at night, man. If you think about when Thriller dropped, it dropped at 12, 1 in the morning. So to hear that, man, and then just the feeling that came over me, we finally had our own, man. And that's how I felt when I first heard that song. That was real hip hop to me. So it was amazing, man. I got to admit, it was amazing.
Chris.
Well, because this will be very quick with mine. That's why I try to get y'all. I let Raymond single his out. I want a couple of people to answer mine. Another thing is similar to what we just asked you on the first question I asked. The second thing is, do you think hip hop played a part of separating the black families? The reason I asked this question because me and Raymond, he wanted me to come up with my questions because I look at how back in the early, like we talked last time, back in the 70s, how songs were love songs and everybody wanted them to get married and settle down and have a family. But when we got to this rap thing after the 80s, it more be like, I'm a pimp. I get these hoes and all this stuff. It's like that seems like it played a part. Or like, I ain't trying to settle down.
I
I'm gonna
I
get
I,
out here with all these women and all this, and
I
it
got you.
kind of put us in that mode. So I mean,
I got you.
Derek, go ahead, answer. Raymond,
No,
like
no,
I
no.
said, I
I
got
just,
only probably.
it's not me answering. I want to hear Ro. He over there shaking his head. I really want to hear what he got to say.
I'm gonna say it's a huge no. I you know I don't you're not going. I don't think it influences. I mean, life has more impact on relationships on the black family than you got life, you got situations. I think hip hop has nothing to do with that. I mean, you ain't want to become a pimp because Too Short was talking about pimping. If you weren't going to commit to a female, it was just because you had a hunger. I mean, let's just keep it real. I mean, yeah, you got a girl and she nice, but if that's not who you've been eyeing the whole time, just because you get one pair of fresh Jordans, don't mean you don't see another pair of Jordans you want. Just looking at it from that perspective. Like, hip hop is not gonna make you stay with a girl or maintain a relationship or anything like that. That's a bit that's putting a
Okay.
bit too much on the music, on the culture for real. Now from the aspect like maybe if you're doing music and like if you're an artist or a DJ or a producer, or maybe you spending too much time in the studio and your girl get upset or your man get upset or something of that nature, then from that aspect of it, maybe. But overall, no, that's a big no.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, I'll say, I go. I say Hezekiah. Do you think the hip hop culture drives the community in a certain direction?
Uh, I think it plays its part. I think it's um because I think hip hop is a portion of the whole, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors that play with the black community. And hip hop is just part of it. I mean, it's one of those ones that's you put in a bow. Now, where it drives us, it depends on the person and how they take in the music. I mean, because there's some people in the community that don't listen to hip hop, right? So, I mean, their influence, hip hop's influence of it is a little bit less. But there's some that's, I mean, that listen to hip hop, or I mean, hip hop is a bigger influence, whether it be in an industry, whether it's the music that they listen to all the time, whether it's, I mean, as a young person growing up, that's what they see, that's what they want to emulate. So does it have an effect? Yes. To what degree? I think it just differs based off the person and based off of where you're at in your life. So and then how you see things on TV, or how you see things in society. So I think that's why it plays a part. Because even as we're sitting here talking as this panel, you know, how it's influenced us throughout the years, right? How it's directed our relationships and our communities and our families, how it's affected us is based off of where we grew up at, you know, and how we listen to it and what type of music that we listen to. I mean, it's affected all of us in a different way, more for some of us, less than others. So
Can I say something before we move on? Just kind of dealing with the question that Raymond and Chris asked. I do think, and I'm going to disagree with Ro just a little bit. I do think that a certain rap music has changed our community, and I'm going to say trap music. Trap music glorified drug dealing, even though we had that back in the day and people talked about it. When Jeezy dropped Trap or Die, it changed the dynamics of the corner boy. It did. And that will change your community. It glorified being a trap star. I mean, you know, and if you think about it, a lot of these cats are on the corner, and the amount of time they spend on the corner, they basically make a minimum wage. But in depending on where they are, they're looked up as trap stars. And that did change. Little girls, instead of going to school and thinking it's cool to date an athlete, now it's cool to date somebody that's trapping. So it changed that depending on, you know, what part of the community. I'm talking about the young part of the community. I think it did change that.
So, and I think that ties into what we've been saying about the effect of it. It's, I mean, we have in this show because hip hop affects our culture, right, in many different ways, you know, and it affects us, all of us on this panel, many different ways, you know, and as far as how when D heard his first hip hop, you know, with Ice-T, I mean, how it changed his life, or I mean, Chris actually being an artist, Rose being an artist, Big being an artist, Sean getting on the call last weekend. I mean, pulling out a whole different character of himself. I mean, to spit, you know.
I hate I missed that, boy.
Let's not get beyond.
I missed that, boy. God,
we getting beyond that.
Hey, it affects our culture. It affects what we smile about. It affects what we get mad about. It affects about how we look at women, how we look at males, how we look at certain people on the street. It affects us, and it affects people different ways based off of their upbringing and where they're at in their life. So I mean, hip hop has an effect.
I was gonna say something. I know the last question I had asked, but the reason I'm gonna be real. The only reason like that question even came about is that it was time. Say I was messing with somebody, and that time maybe she cheated or I don't heard about it. You know what I play? And me and Dirk used to run down the street, and even when Dirk were going through situations with women, we'll play Snoop Jank. His name is and when you playing that jank, you feeling it. So that song transform you to this dog. You like rah, rah, you know, you out here trying to dog. You know what I'm saying? You can feel it. So I'm like, music.
That was my song,
it
bro.
Possess you to go out here and like, it won't make me love this woman or we gonna men. It made me go out here. I'm gonna dog them to the fullest. So it's like music. You could feel it in your spirit, man. It was like, boom, that song there, man. And we,
Man,
now, Derek, you know how much we banged that. We used to
was
play
this,
the back of the hatch up. Go down the street. Now all women hear this song here. Boom, dude.
hey, but look though, it's like
Oh.
I think, and from that aspect of it, man, it's just like alcohol, man. Only thing it did was just accentuate how you were feeling.
Yeah.
It wasn't the product
And
of what you felt. Your
it
question
wasn't a
was,
product, but it's like you hurt. A hurt person hurt people. And
yeah,
when you hurt, man, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to go through that feeling. So that song like minutes you to a point you could be numb. And it's sad that hip hop, we had to turn to hip hop so we could go through these emotions. And that's why I say music is very influenced to making you think a certain way, act a certain way, and stuff like that. Because I even look at some of my songs, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't make it, because I was saying some off the wall stuff, man. I used to say, I mean, for real, I was saying some like the song Medieval. From one blast, I blow the back out your ass, and like a thief in the night. I still your like fast in the hurry, so no one didn't even worry. And I make sure I out your the same day you get buried. Whoa, you say that's cold, nigga? That's the way that I roll. You know what I'm saying? The whole song was cold. The whole song was cold. And I'm like, man, imagine that song was out and smoking weed and drinking, listening to that. You got to realize the energy we were putting out, man.
I mean,
energy to be cold as possible, to be the coldest one. That came out with I'm bad. LL.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
don't get him started, P. Don't get him started.
Yeah, we be up here all day. Don't do it.
Do not get him started.
Well, look, and you know, one thing I wanna bring to light is that the formation and the shaping. You know, they say music is the soundtrack of our life, and one thing I can say about this group is that we remember the beginning of hip hop. I remember, you know, this takes me back when I was sitting there listening to the conversation. I was dating a girl, and she had like a little cousin, 2 or 3 years old, and they used to play a lot of Snoop, you know, around there, and she would call Snoop Snoopy Dog. You know what I'm saying? But the thing was, she got it from that point, from day one, as opposed we got it after we had already started forming some things. So the impact is going to be different. You know what I'm saying? Because every time, think about it now, whenever you hear a song from a certain era, it takes you back there. So we got songs that we listen to that were before hip hop was even what it is. And these kids today, that's all they got. Everything is hip hop.
Yeah, they don't even have no R&B, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Because R&B ain't even.
No.
I mean, now
it's different.
It's singing rap.
Put it this way,
rap.
when Jodeci came out, they changed the whole dynamics of R&B to me.
Well, with R&B now, it's like, you know, because you can take, for example, Chris Brown. I mean, it's
he's now R&B. He's a pop.
Well, okay, pop, but let's just say this. It's like it's almost as if it's blending in with hip hop.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't distinguish between the two of how an artist comes about when they're performing or doing their song. So it's like, you know, you using something to help sell your record, but then you're not being responsible in how you want to portray that to the people. You know,
can I just build off that? Can I build off that? They have, to me, brainwashed the public in thinking that, well, not public, I'm gonna say artists, in thinking that, you know, pop is the way to go. You're not selling albums unless you go pop. If you think about it, like Chris Brown came out as an R&B artist. He still does R&B and hip hop songs, but he's labeled as a pop star. So I mean, and you look at it like Pitbull, he raps, but he's not. That's not considered hip hop. Or What's the other guy from Florida? I can't
That ain't
think
the
of his
same guy that came
Nah,
out.
nah, 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 nah.
Low Rider
Flow
came out.
Rider.
Flow
Oh,
Rider,
Yeah,
right,
Flow
right,
Rider,
right.
yeah,
Flow
Yeah.
Flow
Rider
Rider.
came out, and Flow Rider. I mean, he's a very successful, but he came out rapping, but he's not considered a rap artist. So they're pushing this agenda that this is the way to make it. We called it back in the day crossing over, and
Yeah.
that's just the thing to do now.
I think Bobby Brown was the first one, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, Bobby
With
Brown was.
BBD and
Yeah,
all that.
Yeah.
It was
Bobby
Usher.
Brown. But you know
Then
what
it
I
was Usher and then
essentially,
Chris Brown.
All right.
you know what I essentially think though? I really believe because artists are artists and there's some great artists out there that have great messages. But if the marketing machine don't get behind it,
Oh,
it
absolutely.
goes nowhere. It's a science in marketing. There is a
Yes.
science on how to um, push something and make it be sold, just like any other product, just like butter on the shelf, just like a car on the lot. It's a science in marketing, and that's why I think people fall into the trap. Because when these artists come in the office and they get them in there and they show them, well, this is what sells. So they selling them. This is what. It's just like the issue of how another soft way to entrap the black community. Because if we can get them, if we can market this to them, we can get them get this to ingrain into their society. Because that's what's happened now. Hip hop,
Exactly.
the
Absolutely.
negative part of hip hop has ingrained in our society. It is like water. It is like air. To the kids that have grown up. Now, like I said, we know there was a break in when we got it. We got it at a certain point. We were probably 11, 10. We were at an age where we had been developed. Imagine being at an age where from day one, this is what you're hearing. It soaks in you, and every time a song comes on, it creates another memory from back at a different point. But this is the information that you're being fed. Fed. And I just think we have to take better control. Now, right now in the marketplace in hip hop, there's a lot of opportunity for people to push their own products. But these are also the same people that have grown up on this type of music. So their type of what they want to push is similar to the same thing. I mean, you got some standout artists, you got your super creatives. You got your J. Cole, you got your Anderson .Paak, you got a Chance the Rapper. And this is the thing. Are they popular artists or not? Those are very popular artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
not all pushing a negative message, but that's the connotation that's out in the marketplace, and that's what they continue to feed people when they come in. So we need to let people know that look, the world needs to know who you are and what you have to say, because there's an audience waiting for every person with their message.
And Big was talking about that. It made me think of a conversation I had with somebody, and it was like, you know, we were talking about black and white influence, and it was a white guy, and he was talking about, man, just listen to your music, listen to what your music talks about, your people, about what they do, and all that stuff, you know. And I mean, when Big was talking, it's like, yeah, that's our image. That's the black community's image to the world. Whoever listens, I mean, hip hop is. I mean, as far as what's being marketed out there. And I'll leave it there, man. I'll be brief on that situation.
All right,
Hey
I'm gonna
man, we
go.
can edit. I say
Sure.
your statement, man. It's gonna be at the
We
top.
gonna go to the next question. Hey man,
we moderating these questions,
yeah,
bro.
he wanted it like this,
Just
man.
sit back
I'm
and
just like me. I want to hear
listen.
some everybody, but so I got to pick a person. I'm gonna go with Lawana this time. Your checks on you. This question is, do you think hip hop fashion plays a part of the young guys wearing their pants down, as well as young ladies looking provocative when they go out?
Oh yes, most definitely. Like you say earlier, the whole time we've been up here, we were talking about how people emulate what they see, and yes, I watched them. We went through the time when Wu-Tang came out. Everything was all baggy and the bubble coats, and we went through that phase. And We went through, even before then, we went through a phase of bell bottoms, and we went through another phase. Now we had this tight, skinny jeans phase, even though it's bad for testicular health. But you know, that's the phase we're at. You know,
Go ahead.
and so very much so, very much so. I believe it impacts, and I believe people, like you say, it's like monkey see, monkey do, and it's very much used as a tool to do just that, to get us where they want us to be.
All right. Let me
So can I just build on what she said before we move on? I'm not gonna take up too much time, Sean. So I just want to ask her a question based off of what Chris asked her. Do you think that hip hop has been used to demasculate the males in our community?
Today's hip hop,
Yeah, today's hip hop. That's what I mean.
Most definitely.
That was real easy, Raymond. We can move forward.
Can Ro answer that too? Can we get Ro to, can we get Ro to answer a little bit of that? Do you both for the question I asked and Dirk asked?
Oh yeah. Oh, indeed. That's the whole agenda. Right now it seems like, you know, with not even just the tight clothes, just the outrageous gear. Like you got MCs out here. Well, you got rappers out here wearing dresses, knee-high boots. Like, okay, Rick James had the leather suit with the red knee-high boots on, but he still looked thuggish in that. Melly Mel and everybody, they had their questionable gear, but these cats is wearing dresses, bruh. And I think it is a whole agenda. You know,
wearing lipstick now, aren't they now too, right?
Nail polish, lipstick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and I mean it you know, it is. And I think it's a lot of you know, a lot of it's that get the bag mentality. You know, I understand certain situations drive, you know, creates a certain type of drive, right? But you know, that whole thing, man, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it short, but yeah, it is. It is that whole agenda is to take, you know, to kind of push us back a little bit, to further, you know, push us back into the, you know, that meme with Homer Simpson falling back in the bushes.
In the
You know,
sunken place.
Yeah.
Let's just say hip hop is a tool of destruction right now.
Or the machine behind it.
Yes.
You know, because if you know, you got a lot females are mostly the stylists to these cats. So a lot of these cats got females dressing them. And if you got a female telling you, oh, the ladies are going to love you in this, just putting it on with the quickness. Like, yo, I'm going to put this on. You know, just like, you know, whoever the stylist was that told Rick Ross, yo, you ain't got to button your shirt up when you go out there. Unbutton this Versace shirt, show all that gut, them tattoos and everything. No, I mean, it just sent it to another, it to another level. So, you know, I think, you know, the force behind it sees the impact and just puts certain people in place, and they do these things subtly because it create a distraction to the left, and then, you know, go on and put this on. Man, this look like a dress. I'm telling you, the ladies gonna love it. And then you got two ladies standing off in the corner, making them googly eyes at you, and they looking at you, licking their lips and everything. You like, yeah, let me put this on. This do look kind of fly. You know, that's how they present it.
When really she just licking her lips because she want that money he has.
Oh, true that. But you know,
it ain't
dudes
even
ain't
about
looking.
his clothes. It's just about he's that artist with that money, and that's what I want.
I think one of the biggest problems is our self identity.
Absolutely.
Because these are entertainers and you know, performers, and they should be in costume. It's a performance. You know, it's just like, you know, women wearing all these damn wigs out on the street. These were for female performers. these lace fronts and all this other stuff. They were performing. They didn't have time to do their hair in between all these sets. So they got all these different looks, just like Lil' Kim with the colored wigs and all of that. They are performing. When they're out, they don't wear that stuff. But you got us with no self-identity following behind these people doing this stuff, going to work dressed like this. There's a self-identity problem.
Yeah, they writing all over their face, tattooing their face all up, can't get a job.
I wanted to get. I really want. That was one of my questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead and ask
Lead
it, man.
into it, bro.
Ran into it, bro. I mean, because I was gonna say the reason I said that because you got to realize, wasn't nobody really into tattooing until Tupac, and we can holler Iverson and all that you want, but when Tupac started tatting himself and putting thug life and all that, and he started doing all these tattoos, it seemed like a trend. Right after that, everybody just started tatting themselves to death.
But they writing all on their eyelids.
Yeah, this forehead, cheeks, nose.
I mean,
cutting eyebrows off.
I'll say Tupac did start the trend, but I think Lil Wayne took it to another level, man. I tell you, when Wayne started tattooing his face, you saw another level of tattoos, man.
Including, I'm still stuck on them pants he had on, them zebra pants or whatever that was. Bless his heart. Bless his heart.
All right. Okay,
hey,
hold on. All right.
Shine.
Yes, sir.
Give me 1 second. Okay, just give me 1 second because when Big spoke a minute ago, man, he said a lot.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
You know, he said a lot about about how when we came up, how we attach hip hop. I don't think Big. One thing I just wanted to bring out was we weren't ready. We weren't ready to hear what we were hearing, but we had stronger foundations in parents and grandparents. We had stronger support systems from adults to let us know or reinforce the fact that that was an attainment. When the difference in the kids now is everybody's listening to the same thing in the car, right? If you wanted to hear your hip hop back in the day, you had to have your Walkman because your mom won't put that tape, won't put Run DMC in the cassette deck when everybody's riding in the car. She don't want to hear that. But now you got everybody bumping Jeezy Trapper died. The babies is in the car, the grandma in the car, the grandbabies in the car. Everybody got snowman t-shirts on. And that's not taken away from from these, that's not to attack him, but that's just saying the culture that started, we had a support system behind us to put everything in place. They don't. It wasn't that we could adapt to it or that we was developed. We just had that support system. But everything else you said was right on point. But if everybody in the car listening to the same thing and the baby in the back seat throwing gang signs, his mama throwing gang signs from the front seat, that's what is gonna happen. I see it every day, man. I see it every day.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? I wouldn't even listen to certain music around my daughter or my son when they were younger because I didn't want that. So yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Okay. Well, that's
and then that's the diversity. I mean, having that diversity of thought, right? I mean, it's the diversity of viewpoints. I mean, it's like this panel having multiple viewpoints of different times, being able to see different things. If you only see one thing over and over again, I mean, that's what you end up becoming.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that kind of leads into my question, and I'm gonna direct it at you, Chris, and Big. So y'all can, Chris, you answer first. Big, you answer second. What's more important, the message in the rap or the type of delivery or flow that's given?
Oh, that's hard for me. I think both of them, man, because I feel like if I'm saying something, a lot of times I write from my heart or whatever emotion or anger, frustration, or something I'm going through or what's heavy in my heart, even if I want to kick some knowledge. But I think, far as flowing it, is a way I want to say it or critique my words. Cause I'm like, I want to make a style. I got a problem. I don't want to sound like everybody. Cause you know, when the 80s came, there was so many different artists flowing different ways. But when the 90s came, everybody want to sound like Nas, everybody want to sound like Big, everybody want to sound like these cats. So I always, when I first started rapping, and like she's the young lady, like Lawana said, I was so compared to L all through school, everybody putting an L and I'm wearing a Kango. It used even though I love LL, I got tired of hearing people call me LL. So that's when I started doing like Dirk. Remember when I called my name from Chili D to Chilla, and then I started doing reggae rapping because I was like I wanted to be different from everybody else. I wanted to have different flavors and styles. So I really, when I started writing my raps, I started putting in the way I deliver my words, the way I
Hey,
said things different.
hey, Chris, before we move on, can we just get? I want Lawanda to get an idea. Can we just get a one bar of Chiller? Can we just get one? Just one, man, or Chiller? Just one. Just one. Just real quick, man. Just one.
Oh my goodness, you put me on the spot like that.
No,
No, he
I'm
talking about
talking to
me.
him. I'm talking to
He talking
Chris.
about
Chris,
me.
Chris, can I
Oh,
just
We'll
get
get
one
you.
bar
We'll
of
get
Chiller?
you, P. We'll get you, P.
Just one
All
bar.
right. It
Just
just went. My name is Chilla. I perfect your money so that make you feel for me, cause I'm a short rhyme thriller. And it's time to cool out and be very real. The music is in your face, sure man. Reach out for my rhymes and take a taste, yes man. Your rhymes are already been erased, word up. You try to copy, but you cannot trace. Original music, yes, you're trying to find, hey man, something better, but you're biting some lines, yo man. I think you're crazy, yes, you're losing your mind, word up. You say you're not within your line. Well, listen, everybody. My name is called Chilla. I perfect your mind so to make you feel for me, cause I'm a short rhyme thriller. And it's time to cool out and be for real. Kick it, y'all. Chilla on the record on the microphone. What? Chilla on the rock the music on and on. Chilla on the rocket on the microphone. Say what? Chilla on the rocket on and on. Kick it. Yes, I say my Rama runs to say I know they're really rocking. Time I see that I found the people out there be jocking off my liver say they say they be real living rocking. But it went on like that. And that song was written. I written that song in '86 when Just Ice, I told you last time, when Just
Yeah,
Ice
you
came over
said
that
just
jank,
ice.
I didn't
Yeah,
know what to write because I never heard nothing like that. And so I wrote that song with '86 and wasn't nobody in the streets around here flowing like that. So when I get out there and say that, they were just blown away.
yeah.
So the
Everybody
first
want
person
no
I heard
just
influence
ice.
me to even rap like
Yeah,
that was Just Ice and then
just
Chaos
ice.
One, really.
mm.
All right.
appreciate
Ooh.
it, man. I got my Chiller fix. I appreciate that, son.
All right.
It's fixed,
Now
you
let's
sucker,
break.
sucker,
All right.
suckers.
All right. Let's big. Let's go to big. Yeah, go ahead.
It's always the message. It's always the message because you look at. Let's just go back to the verses that was a couple weeks ago. You got Jeezy that has what I'm gonna say got a flow, and then you look at Gucci Mane. I mean, to me, his style is more like the '80s, the way he rap. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it's
Right.
not necessarily the flow; it's the message. Because even though his flow is what I would call a retro kind of style flow, um, he still got his message across. And it's just
Mhm.
like, it's like that's what we look for when we go places. Everything is a message. Everything. That's why people go to church. They're trying to get the message. The delivery is just a form to something that you may gravitate to or may not gravitate to, but the message is always going to be there. So that is the issue. That's the whole behind, like I said, the marketing machine is messaging, how they want to deliver it. And I got something to say, but let me just say this real quick. I know, Raymond, I know, but this is what got me last night. I was watching the fight, and they had all the performers in between.
Yeah, I know
And
where
I
you
was
going.
thinking to myself, it's a lot of different people watching this fight. It ain't just black people. It's a lot of people from all different race, creeds, and colors. But if they were playing a drinking game, and as many times as they heard the word nigga last night, they'd have been drunk before the second fight. that's something we got to work on, man.
Mhm.
And I know I'm an older guy and this and that, blah blah blah. But I'm just like, I mean, at a certain point, so,
But look, hey, Big, I'm gonna piggyback on what he said. I feel like the message is good, but your deliverance. I mean, everybody can go to church and hear the same message, but most churches are packed because of the pastor, the way he delivered it. You can look at T.D. Jakes, the way he busts down metaphors, or you can listen to Cloflo Dollar, or when a certain artist say certain stuff, or like Slick Rick, the way he say it with a style or story, because anybody else could say a story and it could be dry, but somebody put some flavor to it and makes it hype. So it's like, to me, that's why it's hard. I say both of them got to be together. If you,
They got to be together.
it got to be together.
I hear what you're saying, but the
Yes,
underlying point is the message, because this is the thing. If you got a style and no message, it's pointless.
All right, not really. Dawes in effect. Man, they rock. They ain't have a message. They just rock.
Did.
They had a
They
story.
had a,
did.
They had a message.
Everybody jumped.
They had a message.
They had a
They
message.
won't
They had
know.
a
Yeah.
message.
I mean, they were just
They had
saying
a
my
message.
knee bone connected to my knee bone, all this stuff. They were just ripping it, and
Nah,
it was
bro.
just ripping.
Bro.
It was
Like
rock.
that. Nah, bro. Just they had a message. But the point of what I was trying to get to was the fact that it is, like y'all said, it is a marriage of the message and the flow and delivery. You know what I mean?
Rock him
Like
for instance.
like
Rock him.
But
laid back,
Big,
yo,
I
God,
agree.
man, you know,
I
laid
would
back and
no.
flowing.
I agree with what Big said. I agree with what Big said. Your messaging is important, but y'all as artists, you know, y'all know that marriage is important to be able to connect with the people, so that the people can understand what you're saying and vibe off of you as an individual.
I
You know,
also
that's where
think
I felt
it
that.
depends
You
on what
got you
era you come
it
from too.
yeah.
I say that because I think nowadays you're right. The flow isn't as important as the message. Like, you listen to some of these bubblegum artists, man, and I'm telling you, like these young cats be like, this is the song, and I'm just like, that's garbage, man. That flow is garbage, but it's not what, and like my son will tell me, it's not how they flowing. Listen to what he's saying, Dad. Listen to what he's talking about. So I will agree with Big. The
Yeah,
message
you
is
right. On it today, I
and
think
then it's the
that's more
audience.
right. With like on it today, they don't even you ain't even gotta have a style, because I can't even, because I'm so used to, we grew up in an era that we
We
wanted to hear
talking as an
somebody had a
audience.
punchline or a metaphor, that when you listen to these cats, you just listening to a dry flow with some words or some humming or some mumbling or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we
But
talking as an audience, heads. We talking like as being, we flip. I know them as artists, but just basically as looking at us as an audience, listening to an artist and how they feel about. I mean, how they bringing about whatever message
It's
in it.
But
Go
Hey
ahead.
Sean, and I gotta come at it, from this angle. Big is not wrong with what he's saying about the message from, just from my perspective, because I always, everything I listen to from an artist's perspective. I never listen to music from a listener's perspective.
Mm,
I can't. Um,
mm,
but you, even if you got a message, if you got a dope message, if you don't deliver it properly, it's gonna go over somebody's head. If you got everybody, 85 to 95% of the listeners don't have a listener's ear, don't have an MC's ear. First time I hear something, I'm listening for a message and how they put it across. It's a lot of songs out there that's dope. Like you said, Dot's Effects don't have no message. Listen to it. Go back and listen to what they're saying. It's a lot of metaphors, but it is an underlying message somewhere. You just gotta listen for it. So it's a marriage. It's a marriage of the two, really. Um, but I think from what Big was saying is the message is the most important of the two, which he's right in that. The message is the most important of the two, but how you bring it across is going to determine the reaction or the enlightenment that you expect from the listener.
I gotta, Ro, it's one thing I gotta put on top of that, because it's also the machine. Because you got to think about it, man. It's songs that you'll hear and you don't like, but when you hear that thing, 3-4
15
times
times,
an
times,
hour.
yeah, 15 times.
But
It's
see
You
that.
slowly
singing it.
penetrating.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you already said that.
the designer joint.
But we still in the same conversation here.
I mean, but that's what you're
Because
saying. I'm saying you said that. You said that. You did say that.
You
I mean,
I
did.
think it's not
when you
what
said your
you
answer,
say,
you
it's
did
how
say
you
that.
say it, and that's the old school saying, and that applies to hip hop as well. It can go over your head if it's not delivered in the right tone. Just like when you're trying to you want to present your message or you want to teach the youth, it's not it's what you say, how you say it, not what you say, but how it's said. So it's both. You can't have one without the other.
And then if somebody's listening, right? So I mean, it's like, how many times have you gone back to listen to a song and realize that they were saying something completely different than what you got at the moment that you listened to it? So
With my
it's
own music.
right. So
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it's
layers.
how your viewpoint of it based off of your age, growth, whatever the case may be. It's like, I mean, you receive a message differently. And just like Big was talking about, if you hear, I mean, you can hear that you ugly 1,500 times, and then before you know it, you're gonna say, I mean, without even thinking it, that you might be ugly. You know, it's that machine behind it, and that's part of the machine behind. Is getting a message out there, you know, and that message that they want to send is a message to where, hey, yeah, this is what Black people are, or this is how Black people should be. This is what, you know, um uh you should look at them as, and this is what they're talking about. This is what all of them talking about, because look at it. Their grandmama, their mama, their sister, the baby in the back is all listening to the same message because this speaks to them, right? So I mean, it's that's the machine, right? And when you don't have diversity of thought, then the thing is, you can't realize that it's just the machine behind it, because
Right.
this is all that you're used to. This is all that you see. This is the only Kool-Aid flavor that you had.
That's right.
You
One
know,
flavor pudding. That's all it is.
that's
You ready to move?
All
Let's
right,
move to the next question.
Go for it.
Let's do it.
And this one directed to Mr. Shine, Mr. Wise himself. Well, somebody else could piggyback off that there, but I need to hear what Mr. Shine going to say. It is, where do you see the future of hip hop heading? Knowing now that you see everything that it's doing right now, where do you see the future of hip hop heading?
That was a question I was going to ask too.
he's just laughing at the
All right. As far as commercially, if it'll stay on the same trend, because Big and Hez has been stating about the machine behind it. As long as they see a market in selling something that they can control, is going to always be that same way, materializing the culture, basically having people just do whatever it takes to get a piece of that so-called right to be have fame and be famous. So it's gonna always be that driving to push it to where they want it to go. And if people can make a fool of themselves in order for to do that, then they will do that. But that's just how it's gonna go that way. Now, as far as people who really want to make the music and really feel something for it, you're gonna have that small section that does that make the music for the people. Make the music for that people gonna want to listen to, that might want to divert from that. So it's gonna be that, it's always gonna be that small section that's gonna want to really evolve into something greater than what they see. That's always gonna be. It's just the machine is gonna be in the one in control of what you see. But in the but on it but in the on in the outskirts or where people are that really believe in the music, it's always going to be that section, that little section that's always going to want that pureness and the truth of it. It's always be that. So they're going to always be around, you know.
Let me jump on that. I mean, it's like how we've been talking about hip hop's changes from the 80s to 90s to now. I mean, I do think that it's going to change again, right? Because everything that we were talking about earlier was about hip hop has been our lot. I mean, is a reflection of our lives, right? You know, and this society is changing, maybe for the good, maybe for the bad, whatever. And because of how that change is going to come about, it's going to change what gets represented in hip hop and what gets represented in the music and how people gravitate to it. Because, you know, it's always going to change. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it change in our lifetime just from the 80s, from what we were just talking about. You know, so but will it still be influential? Yeah, I'm quite sure it will be. So,
Ro?
And man, where I see hip hop going in the future, I think it's getting ready to circle back around to the realness. Because if you look at everybody has their own outlet now. Y'all talk about the machine, but the machine doesn't even recognize you until you've already put yourself on the radar. You know, you got Spotify, you got, you know, Tidal, you got all these different outlets where you can even create your own material in the crib and put it out by yourself with minimal dollars without anything. And then it's out there. You could jump on the book and on the gram. I mean, you got world famous producers on Instagram shopping their beats right now. That's how accessible and how broken down the game is right now. So, you know, I think of, you know, when I was telling y'all earlier about Griselda Records and those cats, they started with that outlet on their own. And now really they the biggest in the game. They're really getting money. Like they're successful. And you don't even see them promoting anything. No t shirts or I mean they had their own t shirts, but you know, just anything crazy. Everything is about their music. So I think the future looks bright as far as anybody being able to jump in with their own content, with their own type of flavor. You got any type of hustle about you right now, you can make yourself successful. It's all about what you're going to bend to, how far you're going to bend over, or are you even going to bend to reach that extra level. But the culture and the music itself is going to continue to move forward and continue to be an outlet for a lot of people.
I agree with
Doubt,
that.
no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, you have one final question. Unless you got any other question that you want to ask, Chris.
No, that was basically it, man. Because my other question really, I mean, it was kind of the same thing. It was just in the same tier that everybody answered. Because it was just basically, do you think hip hop has helped build up the black community or tear it down? That was the other question.
Both.
Yeah, I think that's a combination of both, man. It depends on what artist you're listening to in that moment. Like Big said earlier, you have different artists, man, and depending on what they're talking about. And I think that goes back to even our era. If you think about like the artists we were listening to back in the day, I remember when NWA first hit, you know. And you could have looked at it from two different perspectives. You could have looked at it from they're introducing that gangster mentality to our community. But then you could also look at it as, hey, these brothers are out here creating an avenue where we can actually say what we want to say and have true freedom of speech. So it just depends. I agree with that. It's both.
Big.
I think it's a bright future, man. You know, like Rose said, just the outlets, the internet has opened the world up. You know, what people don't realize, I think, and I'm gonna plug this right here. I think I know I had mentioned it to y'all before, but there's a documentary called Underdogs on Netflix. It's about some cats from here, from the 757, that traveled the world doing a show on the underground, and it just showed the impact of where hip hop is going, because how could that be communicated without the internet? I mean, they aren't stars. They're not big stars, but they had good showings everywhere they went. And it's pretty impressive. Y'all get a chance to see it, definitely check it out.
Definitely gonna check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's worth a watch, because what's gonna happen is, with y'all being from where you are, is several places that you're gonna notice and know from the documentary. It's good. I watched it a few times. It's pretty good. But the internet has created a marketplace for anyone that has anything that they want to get out, because this is the reality. If you have a message, your people will find you, as long as you stay out long enough for them to find you.
Lawana,
Yes, sir.
you can answer the question too. Do you think it built up the community or turned it down?
I think it's both. But in the later end, at first it was pure and it built it up. We talked about, like, again, it was knowledge. We had the KRSs, and then we had some later groups in the later 90s, like Dead Prez, and talked about that with Shine last night. And those were all good groups. And there's some good artists, but the good artists tend to get overshadowed by the artists that are being used to perpetuate something negative.
Yes, everybody roll big and has a car. Everybody answer that. So, Dirt, did you put in that, man?
Yeah, I
He
did.
did.
I did.
He did.
I do want to say this, man. As an old head, man, and I love.
Hey, man, you ain't old, man. Don't get
Well,
a
well,
shiny
well, hold on,
like you
man. Let
got
me
one
finish.
tooth
Let me
hanging out your
finish.
mouth.
Let me finish. I'm saying,
Let him say what he got to say.
in the sense of hip hop, it was real refreshing about 2 years ago when J. Cole dropped KOD, man. Just to hear somebody talk about, something positive. I mean, that was real refreshing to me. And I followed J. Cole since he's come out, but that album really hit home, man, for me, because it was just, I hadn't heard an album put together, and every song was about something dealing with issues in our community, and it was presented in a positive light. So that was real refreshing, man.
Oh yeah.
All right, Sean, go ahead and ask that last question you've been holding on to. That's killing you. Go ahead and try to bust somebody in the head with your last question. Let it go. Shoot. Start shooting, man. Go. I'm ready.
It's just a lighthearted one, but it's gonna be.
See, there that giggle. Go ahead with it.
All right, this for everybody, and you don't have to ask. You don't have to ask why. You don't have to say why. You just say who you feel. Who you feel is the wackest rapper.
I can't do that. I cannot say that. I plead the fifth because I'm not going to damage nobody.
Yeah, we can't answer that, bro.
Wow.
I cannot.
That's a part of the tear down, man. I'm not gonna be a part of that, man.
I cannot add to that one there. I plead the fifth.
I will say this. I will say this. I will say this. It's been a couple of cats that done hit the airways, and you like, man, how in the world?
Yeah.
Because because you got a different perspective, D, because you down there. I can remember vividly the first time I heard, and I could not believe that this was even on the radio. I could not, bro, I could not believe it. And it was crazy. I was like, and I just was like, man, once I saw the video and I was like, okay, so these cats got some change. They out here hustling. They put their own music out or whatever. But you got that, and then you got that cat. Who was that cat? Whoever did that song. Somebody granddaddy was out here rapping, trying to get money real quick.
That beat was hot though, man.
That beat was not hot, and neither was the old
hot,
church deacon singing in that joint.
That beat was hot.
No, it wasn't.
Hey, look, man. Look. If y'all gonna let low, man.
Let me just say this. I'm not gonna throw any artists under the bus, but it was a big adjustment coming to the South from VA.
I was gonna come in with Dirk on that.
Brother, the stuff that they were listening to was so watered down. And like I said, I ain't throwing no artists under the bus, but it was definitely different, man. And I think when some real artists came out here, it shedded light on the weaker artists. I'm gonna tell you, when I first heard Outkast when I came here, I was just like, nah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then we talked about an artist, man. One of my favorite Southern artists, man, is Jeezy, man. When Jeezy dropped Snowman, Trap or Die album, I was just like, this is crazy. Even though I wasn't necessarily on point with what he was talking about, just the flow and the ad libs and the music, man, it was crazy. But I will admit, bro, it was a lot of BS being put out.
I mean, and that wasn't a shot. It wasn't a shot at the area or even a shot at them. It was just that particular song. But of course, with Jeezy, when Jeezy dropped the joint with Jay-Z, that kind of opened my ears a little bit, and then I went back and listened to some stuff because I was like, if J. Cole signed, it must be something there.
Yeah.
And then that's what opened my ears to a lot of stuff, man. And go ahead, Chris. My bad.
I was just gonna say, even when I went down to Atlanta, stay down there with Dirk, I had to adjust my ears. And Dirk was pumping a lot of songs. I was like, man, in my mind, I don't want to hear this garbage. This is some Southern stuff. But the more I smoked that weed and we drunk, I started turning around and said, these country niggas are ripping, man, because I was listening to what they were saying. Because I couldn't even listen to MJG and 8 Ball. Man, I started loving them. And I'm like, boy, these country boys some flowing cats.
Hey, they got flow.
I was like, man, everybody I was listening to, because at first my ears, because you hear so much North stuff that you couldn't hear, because the only person I would listen to was Ghetto Boys, who you really knew from the stuff like that. But when you started sitting down and listening to certain artists, man, they were murdering it. But I ain't gonna say all of them were great, but it was some good dudes. It was some good dudes.
Sade had some good music when he moved down to ATL. Yeah, when he moved.
Man, you gotta realize Sade was early. What's that giant? I'm sorry, MC Sade, and I want to be tough.
Gotta be tough.
I mean, all them songs rock, because Sade was in the era. Put it like this: we went from an era, all you had to say, and then you like, that rock. You went from an era from Belly Mail. You went from an era to Curtis Blow. You went from an era to all them old dudes, and you started hearing people like Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Chaos One, all that stuff. LL Cool J and Run DMC, they kind of flipped hip hop. Then it started getting better and better. Biz Markie acting silly. You got Queen Latifah, MC Light. You got all these great artists coming out, man, just spitting. Slick Rick. You had so many hard artists that in just the 80s, the late 80s, you were like, I don't never think it'd ever be a boom in hip hop like the 80s. Because everybody was coming out.
It was though. The 90s. The 90s from 91 on, bro. The 90s is crazy.
The reason I say that, and I mean, we might have a debate on that. The reason I say that is because it seemed like everybody was coming out sounding with their own stuff. But when the 90s came and the stuff went on, when it started getting to that Nas era and then Biggie and everybody had the same, saying the same thing, flow madam. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, it was hot. But I'm
It
like,
changed a
yo, but it
lot.
was a
Nah,
lot of people
You had a
trying to
whole lot
sound
of
like
different
certain people.
stuff in the '90s,
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
A lot of
bro.
Because even
diversity.
LL
I can't.
changed. Yeah.
I would have to. I would have to agree.
you
I have to
know,
agree with everybody. Yeah.
Tribe was in the '90s.
But yeah, but I'm saying that late '80s. All right, I put it like this: beginning of the '90s to the late '80s, it was a boom of flow and styles like Tretch, like you said, Tribe, like Daylight. Everybody had a different stuff just was
Black
coming out like it
Moon,
was rock and Black Moon. Everybody was just rocking. You were like, God, hip hop,
Onyx.
and that's what made hip hop. To me,
Yeah.
that was the foundation of like the boom to hip hop to me.
Yeah.
Because everybody was coming out, because you were waiting to hear Foose niggas. You were waiting to hear all these different artists coming out with different styles, man.
like
You had Lost Boys and all that.
Yeah,
You
you
had
had-
the
Yeah.
You had so many
Yeah.
coming out with flavor that you were like, yo, and they would just make, because see, that was the era that made me like, dang, I had to ball this up and rewrite another, because I was listening.
But that
Black
was
Sheep.
remember that's
You would
that's
make me
your
like, this song ain't hot enough. These
that was
dudes-
your era, bro. That was your era. So you
These
looking at
dudes are
it from
spitting.
your
So
era.
when you turn on the radio, you're like, man, that's when I said that song. Turn on the radio, there it is, another whack ass rhyme. And you know when I said that verse last week, and that's what I was
What?
talking about. Because now you turn on the radio, there it is, another whack ass rhyme. And you say, I swear to God, I don't even try to play a hate. I just respect those who create. I just respect those who concentrate on putting some skills in what they create. And that's the cat I am.
But see,
Hey,
that's
if you ain't putting no skills in
you
it,
talking, but
you just
that's what I'm
writing
saying. You
something,
talking
man.
about you locked in a certain era.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
know
ain't
what I
locking it,
mean?
man. I'm listening
You
to.
appreciate a certain.
I look
era.
at it like this, man. Drake, I like Drake, but
you had
Drake
Busta.
ain't the greatest artist. I'm there for putting out some music. I like Drake. I ain't gonna say he's the greatest lyricist, but he rock. He's a rocking MFer.
He's not a lyricist.
He got a lot of songs that just rock.
Bro.
I don't care.
He's
he got
one of the greatest
ghostwriter.
artists, but he ain't no rapper, man.
He ain't
an
the
artist.
greatest rapper, but he rock.
y'all said y'all won't go.
I
listen,
said I
man.
like Drake. I like Drake. I'm just saying he's not the greatest rapper, but he
the hardest thing I've heard in the last few weeks is when Busta was addressing T.I. and his little T.I. versus Lil Beef. And
yes.
Busta said, and I gotta give it to him. Busta said, "Look, when you can say you done put over 20 years worth of work in and you still relevant, that was some hard shit.
Yeah.
That was some hard shit.
Yes.
And then he dropped his album.
Oh yeah.
And the whole album is fire.
Mm-hmm.
That was like LL teaching cannabis song.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, it done shuffled a lot of people out of the game.
All right. Okay. All
well,
right.
look, what y'all think about if they was to have a versus battle between 50 Cent and the Game?
I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, we're going into.
You don't think that's fair?
No,
I got the game.
I mean, because people were hollering that. That's what they would like.
Well, let me just say this for you before you do that, bit. It depends on where you're from. If you're from Cali, it's gonna be viewed totally different than it is the East Coast.
It's attendance.
Because what we don't, a lot of music comes out there that we'll never hear, and I'm pretty sure Game has a lot more music than we think he has. So
that's valid. They can go platinum just straight in California.
Exactly.
I love the West Coast too, though. I like the Exhibit and all of them.
Exhibit, my man.
Yeah,
I like them.
I mean, there's a lot of West Coast artists I like.
Yeah, but Game's albums are heavily produced by East Coast producers.
But you got to realize Game a beast to me, man.
Man, wave your flag.
We can do that. We can do that in overtime. We can do that overtime.
All right,
we're gonna lock this up. All right.
Oh, so you want me? Are you done? What?
We done, man. We done.
We're done. Okay. Well, I was gonna say one last thing.
Go ahead, big.
No, and I'm saying that what
can you in that can you take it home? In that can you take it home? Since you want to do that, take it home.
Hey, we tried. Hey, we truly tried.
Take it home, sir. Take it home.
As to the show. So basically, I think the popularity of hip hop other than any other genre of music. What it is, it's almost like an oppression music, because what happens is people, like when Chris talked about moving down to Atlanta and how people down there was feeling it. They was feeling it because it was their music. You know what I'm saying? Like you moved into that. Like what they were hearing in those lyrics is things they could see because they could relate directly to it. So that's what you find in the regional aspect of hip hop. It's like the audience follows what they feel until it hits, the national stage, if it's that good. But that was it.
Go for it. Continue.
All right, great. So you know how this goes, y'all. If you stay ready, you won't have to get ready. Get established.
I want to thank y'all for joining our show today. Please like and subscribe to us on all media platforms. This was a great show discussing how hip hop affects the Black community. Y'all be safe.